This Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. local time in the Pacific Time Zone, we have the second-ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, 5-0, 2-0 in Big Ten Conference play, traveling to the electric, rambunctious, loud, intimidating, and historic Autzen Stadium to face the third-ranked Oregon Ducks, who are also undefeated with a 5-0, 2-0 record in Big Ten Conference play. And what I want to do in today's video is expand upon my Ohio State versus Oregon preview and predictions video, where, spoiler alert, I'm going to kindly remind you, if you have not watched the video already, click the link in the pinned comment down below to watch the video, again, if you haven't already. But again, spoiler alert, I have picked Ohio State to win this weekend's matchup 31-20. I think that it's going to be a close game for 3 quarters, maybe 3.5, but I think Ohio State is going to show in the fourth quarter, in the second half more broadly, that they are just the superior team, and they will overcome Oregon's home field advantage and everything that Will Stein, Tosh Lupoy, and Dan Lanning have to throw at them. In today's video, I am going to give you 5 reasons why I believe Ohio State will win this football game. And as always, tomorrow, since this is a big-time matchup, top 3 matchup specifically could be the game of the year, I will give you some reasons why I believe that Oregon can win this football game, why they can upset Ohio State, who right now are a 3.5 point favorite, or maybe a bigger margin of error depending on where you look in the spreads, but Ohio State is the favorite right now. Oregon won the most recent matchup in 2021, but that was 4 seasons ago. And with the transfer portal and NIL era, 4 seasons ago is closer to 10 seasons ago before those rules came into place. So these teams are totally different. New coaching staffs in large part. Day is still the head coach as he was back then. But I'm already getting excited as if we're nearing kickoff in the next few hours for this game. So let's dive right in. And before we do so, I want to remind you all to please hit that subscribe button to help this channel out, and also click that notification bell so that you can get notified when that video about why Oregon can win this game releases tomorrow. That'll also help you get notified when I release more college football content, when we have our giveaway at 20,000 subscribers that I want all of you to participate in. And also, like the video, comment your prediction down in the comments section below, and also some reasons why you think Ohio State will win this game, or if you're picking Oregon to win, at least give a reason why you think Ohio State can win this football game. Also, share this video around, share this channel around to other college football fanatics, and join our Discord server via the link in the description and also down below in the pinned comment. And if you want to go the extra mile and support the channel monetarily, the Patreon page and merchandise store, where there are some very comfortable Big Ten themed t-shirts, are also down in the description and pinned comment. But liking the video, subscribing, sharing, hitting the bell, liking the video, and commenting, those are the biggest ways you can support the channel, and all of them are free. So please do those things. But reason, I would say number 1, the most important reason why I think Ohio State will win this game, is their imposing trench play. Look, Ohio State in the Ryan Day era has not exactly been known for their trench play. They haven't. I even looked back at the 2019 team, an Ohio State football squadron that I would take to beat a good amount of national championship winners in college football history. That was a loaded team. First-round quarterback in Justin Fields, wide receivers who were in really their second year of Brian Hartline being the receivers coach, first year of him being the official and not the interim, an elite running back in J.K. Dobbins, and a defense that under Jeff Hafley was one of the best in the country. And that was a dominant team who beat several good, great, near-elite teams in the regular season and also in the Big Ten championship game. They allowed over 30 sacks, and I don't exactly know why that was, because I didn't watch the entire 2019 Ohio State season in detail, every snap, like I have for Ohio State teams really since 2021, 2020. That's when I really got deeply invested into college football. I know the 2019 historically and some other things, but they allowed over 30 sacks. And this team right now has a good pass protection unit. They can run the ball. They have a variety of blocking concepts that they execute wonderfully. They can run to the outside, they can run up the middle, and they can stop the run, and they can get to the quarterback. Right now, Ohio State, by the way, is first in sack percentage. First. They sack opponents on about 12 to 13% of their dropbacks. That was about the exact number that Penn State's pass rush unit had last season, one of the strongest pass rushes in all of college football in 2023, if not the strongest. It was so strong that they forced Michigan to go into turtle mode and run the football for the entire second half. It worked, but not exactly an ideal strategy if you want to win and control your opponent on the road. Michigan did it, but that Michigan team was a elite team and one of the few teams in the nation that could go one-dimensional and beat a near-elite great opponent on the road like that Penn State team with specifically the defense and game plan that they had. But Ohio State's trench play is among the best in the nation right now. Their O-line is among the best in the nation. D-line even more so. I can't lie in saying I'm a little bit surprised about how the offensive line is performing. It's performing above my expectations. The defensive line is right where I thought they'd be. A near elite defensive line. And the secondary has looked good. The linebacker room has looked good. The offense as a whole outside of the offensive line has looked really good. Ohio State's only allowing opponents to sack them on 2.5% of their dropbacks, and that's factoring in backup play from Devin Brown and a little bit of Julian Sayin too. Will Howard and Ohio State's starting offense has done a phenomenal job. They've ran for 111 plus 1,000, so 1,111 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns. They're averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Defensively, the D-line players have 10 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. The team has several more just attributed to linebackers and DBs, and they're only allowing opponents to run for about 2.3 yards per carry on them. That factors in Caleb Johnson and a great Iowa rushing offense that Ohio State just played this past Saturday and absolutely destroyed, wrecked, and pancaked for 3 quarters until it was garbage time, and then Caleb Johnson did indeed have a long touchdown run. This trench play is imposing, and what I said about the 2019 team was not meant to trash the 2019 team. I still think that is clearly Day's greatest team from a power ratings standpoint, and still, although this year may change that, from a achievement standpoint as well, although the 2020 team did reach the national championship. But what I was trying to say is that even in their best year, that offensive line allowed 30 sacks, and if you know why that is, answer in the comment section. But the point I was trying to make is that was their best season, their most dominant season under Day. Still allowed 30 sacks. And then the 2020 team, 21, 22, and 23, in those 4 years, there was something either wrong with the offensive line or the defensive line. And for the first time since 2019, that may not be the case. The O-line and the defensive line may both be among the nation's best in a single season for Ohio State. And that is huge for a variety of the following reasons I'm going to present to you. For example, Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. This running back duo was the nation's best. It is Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins. It is Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards on steroids. That is what this is. This is one of the best running back duos in recent memory for college football. Maybe one of the best in college football history. Now, of course, having 2 GOAT running backs is probably not going to be as effective as, let's say, 2 GOAT receivers, at least on the surface, because typically you only have 1 running back on the field. Maybe you'll have 2. It adds a lot of depth, but there's more decreasing marginal returns for adding a running back compared to adding a great receiver, because you typically play with more receivers than running backs. In fact, you always do, even in offenses that are very run-heavy. But it's still very beneficial to Ohio State, especially because it sort of provides some injury insurance. Neither of these running backs are injured right now, and they currently have ran for an average of around 20 carries per game combined, 805 rushing yards combined for these two, and 9 rushing touchdowns. I would actually say that the statistics don't sell how good these two are, but that is because Ohio State hasn't really competed with anyone for 4 quarters. Their starters, this Ohio State team is very much like 2023 Michigan, 2022 Michigan in a way, where they are so dominant through the first 3 quarters, 2022 Michigan because of their second half adjustments, 2023 Michigan just because of how good they are from the gate, that their starters don't play for 60 minutes of game time. They play for 40, 45 minutes, maybe a little more than that. But Devin Brown has seen action, I think, all of Ohio State's games because they haven't played in a close game yet. And it's the same thing with Quinton Judkins and Travion Henderson. James Peoples, true freshman, has seen a plethora of action for a true freshman in the running back spot this season. And he's not going to be redshirted, and he shouldn't be, because if one of these players happens to be dinged up, he would be running back number 2. That's how thin they are behind Judkins and Henderson. I have them at reason number 2 and not reason number 1 because A, in the Big Ten, trench play is king. If you have mediocre players everywhere else, but you're elite in the trenches and you're well coached on top of that, you will win a ton of games, a ton of them. And also, this is reason number 2, because Oregon has struggled against Ashton Jeanty and Boise State's ground attack. And while I think Ashton Jeanty is better than any of these running backs in Judkins and Henderson, that's because Jeanty right now is having a generational season. Judkins and Henderson are some of the best running backs in the country. They are going to have success, limited or in full, against Oregon's defense. And I think that if they have any type of space, they're going to make the most out of it. And Judkins is a tackle-busting machine, and him or Henderson, again, if they get an open space, they're going to pick up big plays and big chunks of yards on the ground. Reason number 3 is one player rather than 2, or rather than a group of positions like the trenches. It's Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith cannot be covered. And something that I heard and that I really enjoyed from the Cover 3 podcast today was, imagine if Jeremiah Smith had C.J. Stroud as his quarterback and not Will Howard, and how he probably would have an additional maybe 200 receiving yards or maybe more than that, some more touchdowns. His yards per catch would be over 20. We know that with Ohio State, they do not have an NFL elite collegiate quarterback. They don't. Will Howard right now has played through 5 games, and he does not even have a top 10 QBR. And they have one of the easiest schedules in the country. However, what Will Howard has is one of the nation's best supporting casts and an elite play caller. And Jeremiah Smith is not just the cherry on top or the whipped cream on top. He is the actual sundae. With all the one-handed catches that he makes, all the adjustments he makes, the fact that he can run and execute end-arounds very well, so he can be a threat in the ground game. He can be a threat in the short, intermediate, or deep passing attack. You just can't cover him. All you can do to Jeremiah Smith is hope to maybe force a freshman mistake out of him, make an amazing play against him, or limit him. That's the best that you can hope for. He has 23 receptions on the season, 452 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and he's averaging 19.7 yards per catch. He's just electric. You could put the entire Ohio State wide receiver room up here. You could put Emeka Egbuka up here, who I think is probably the most reliable receiver of the group, but Jeremiah Smith is the most explosive, and Oregon's secondary, I think, is competent enough, especially one of their DBs, cornerback Jabbar Muhammad, to where I think that Ohio State will benefit more from explosivity and the threat that Smith presents, really to open up the ground attack. I think that Ohio State here, you want to run the ball, you want to control the clock, you don't want to play Oregon like how you did in 2021, where you relied on the passing offense to march down the field and keep you in the game, or at least attempt to keep you in the lead. You want to do that with the ground game and use the passing offense to further open up the rushing attack and keep Oregon's defense honest. And Jeremiah Smith is the player who does that. Ohio State could run for 10 times in a row, and Oregon would still have to, in the back of their head, figure out a way to defend the pass because of the existence of not just Igbokwe and Brandon Inniss and Carnell Tate, but because of Jeremiah Smith and the threat that he presents. He is a big weapon, and we are blessed to have him for several more years as an Ohio State Buckeye before he goes off to the NFL. Reason number four, is Ohio State's elite defensive back group. Ohio State right now has 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions from their DBs. Their DBs are allowing 5.5 opponent yards per attempt through the air, 8.7 opponent yards per completion, and a 63.03 completion percentage. This secondary right now, for whatever reason, is not as statistically impressive as last year's secondary, and that is through 5 games where, yet again, Ohio State hasn't played much of anyone. So I don't know if there's a change in defensive scheme. I don't know if maybe last year's opposing quarterbacks for the Buckeyes were so bad that they inflated the numbers. I don't know exactly what's going on, but last year's secondary statistically is better than this year's, but maybe some things will change. I also know that Ohio State in the secondary seems to be playing very conservative. They're playing off their wide receivers and giving them a lot of space to operate. And meanwhile, the pass rush has caught up. It's a lot better than where it was last season. And this defense is one of the best in the country. The reason I put these DBs here as a key part of Ohio State's success on Saturday is I think that they will cover Oregon's receivers rather well. Oregon's receivers, I think mostly because of Dylan Gabriel, have not been putting up impressive numbers, and also because of the early injuries on the O-line that really hampered Gabriel's ability to get out the football. Oregon's offense is all about checkdowns. That's what it is. Getting the ball out quickly, in space, behind the line of scrimmage, or within that 0 to 10 yard marker from the line of scrimmage, and just methodically moving the ball through the air. I think that Ohio State has an opportunity here, and I think their DBs are good enough to where they can get aggressive. And outside of maybe Tez Johnson, they can press these Oregon wide receivers and have some success. I think that Ohio State is athletic enough, they're fast enough, they're disciplined enough in the secondary to where they can put the chokehold on these receivers and then really force Oregon to run into stacked boxes consequentially. Say, hey, we know that you can't pass deep. We know that intermediate and short you're good, but we're going to be aggressive and we're going to try and take that away from you. And if we allow a big passing play, oh well. Like, if we just allow one, well, that's okay because we have an offense that can score points. We're going to force you to try and run the ball into a stacked box and get you outside of your comfort zone. I think that this secondary can do that. And finally is Will Howard's rushing threat. I did not put his passing threat up here or his entire body of work because he hasn't been in an environment like Outson Stadium before. And Outson Stadium is loud. There is a time travel difference. There is a level of hostility in that crowd that I don't think Howard has played in before. Howard, honestly, he's not CJ Stroud. He's not Justin. He's not even close to those quarterbacks. And I have seen that through this season. The difference between a player like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud in college, I mean, even between him and JJ McCarthy or him and Stetson Bennett in some of Bennett's better games is somewhat clear in my mind. And I don't think that's me hating on Will Howard because Will Howard has made some very impressive throws on the money, but he's not an elite quarterback. He is not. But I think what he has that can help Ohio State win this game is his ground threat. The fact that he can power run and break tackles and churn his legs forward for extra yards. What Chip Kelly called against Iowa, that 4th and 2 quarterback draw up the middle, was pretty criminal. That's not how you scheme Will Howard. And I think Chip Kelly knew that. I don't know what that call is. I mean, I'm not an offensive coordinator. Those guys are way smarter than I am. They make more money than I do. And they're more intelligent than I am. And they know more about football. The point I'm saying is what they did with Will Howard designed quarterback power to the left or the right That's how you play with Will Howard. That's how you scheme him. And he works wonderfully with the great offensive line that they have and tight ends and receivers that can block. He just weaves through, sometimes plays as his own blocker, falls forward, gains extra yards. He will keep Oregon's rushing defense and a guy like Derek Harmon on the interior, or Betcher at linebacker for Oregon, or Bassa. He'll keep those players honest in stopping the run. Will Howard will with his rushing threat. On top of that, he has 1,248 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns. He is anything but a bad passer. He is a good, great passing quarterback. I've seen throws against Michigan State and Iowa in environments that are half the factor of what Outson is, at least this year. Spartan Stadium's pretty good when the team is good. I've seen him make throws that should be picked off, and that, well, the DBs dropped, or really that they dropped. And in a loud environment with some nerves, I know he's a veteran, but trust me, something that I keep seeing is people underrating the home field advantage that Outson presents. For being a stadium that's only housing 55,000 people about, it's loud. It is a loud stadium that is designed to trap noise. And I feel like Howard may make more of those errant throws than he's made all season long. However, with the ground attack, the trench dominance with a receiver like Jeremiah Smith, he's going to have some success in the passing game. And I think his X factor in a matchup like this is letting the staff trust him and use him on the ground in designed ways, and also him improvising and being able to extend drives and therefore keep Oregon's offense off the field and his offense off the field, on the field, to score points. That's all I have to say, and thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you to Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Conolulu OH for sponsoring this video and channel as Heisman members. Thanks to Chris Lane, Ismar Tyler 9, Chilton Cush for being All-American members. Thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus for being all-conference members. Make sure to check out my Patreon page or merchandise store via the link in the description down below in the pinned comment, and also my Discord server in those same areas. Have a great day, everyone. Go Buckeyes, and go Ducks.